Roll.
Good morning. Welcome to the November 15th meeting of the Town of Sunset Beach Environmental Resource Committee. Can we stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance?
And I'll sit, not being disrespectful.
Turn off your phones.
Please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is the draft agenda. Are there any amendments anyone cares to make to the agenda?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I've got a very brief report on the status of the bylaws.
Okay, so we'll put that as item B under new business.
Yes. Brief, I mean very brief. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are there any public comments on the agenda? Okay. Next item is meeting minutes for September and October. I'll start out by saying that I've just reviewed these and I think there are some corrections that I would like to see made to these. So I would move that we postpone final review and approval of these until the December meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have a guest today, Elizabeth Smith. Elizabeth, we thank you very much for coming to us. Just as a backstory on this, Elizabeth shared on Facebook her visits to the recycling facility in Wilmington and her interest in the recycling facility in Jacksonville, North Carolina. So we'd like to let her share her story with us and find out what her ideas are on this topic that's very near and dear to our hearts too.
And John, let me interject it. She and I are neighbors.
Okay.
Don't hold that against.
Well, we won't hold it.
Either one of us.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak in front of you. This is actually the first time I'm speaking into a microphone, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
So anyway, I'm very passionate about recycling, and I come from the Raleigh area, which, I came from Austria in 1978, so we already did recycling in Austria back then pretty much separately, like individual recycling. It's not intermingled recycling like it is here, but you separate everything as far down as the glass, from clear glass to dark glass. So to come to the United States, I didn't have any. We moved to the Raleigh area and there was no recycling at all. So I was sort of shocked. So that was in 1978. But in the meantime, things have progressed, and now in the Raleigh area, they have these big. Everybody gets a recycling can, So it's handled differently than in Brunswick County. In Brunswick County, I was surprised I didn't have to pay for the trash because it was included in the taxes. So it's really, when you talk about recycling in this area, you really have to go to the county to make your case to see if they would include recycling, because they're the ones that ultimately fit the bill. And there has been a large resistance to it because of the cost. However, if you keep piling things into the landfill, then the landfill is going to get too big, too full, and you have to look for new landfill, and eventually you do have to come up with the cost, because it's very expensive to ship your trash to another landfill, or when a landfill closes. So the argument for recycling, to do more recycling in Sunset Beach and in Brunswick County, is really a cost issue too, because eventually you will pay for it. Do you want to pay for it now? Because the goal is to keep that landfill as long as possible. In other words, instead of 25 years, keep it 35 years, so you don't have to keep looking for new land, because eventually you're going to run out of land. So when I went, the reason that I'm passionate about recycling is because there's a lack of education of how to recycle. That's a big problem, which leads to contamination of the recycling materials. Okay, so that's why I went to Wilmington at first, because I wanted to find out how does it work in Wilmington, and how is it being separated, and where is the most trouble that they have. So I was very happy to have Gus Wiley. He's the plant manager of both Wilmington and Jacksonville, and his new assistant, Drake Lewis, was the one that gave me the tour. So it was very interesting, and it was very interesting to see how things have separated, okay, from glass, which the glass is a big part, and the glass gets shipped to Wilson. I don't know if you know that in Wilson, North Carolina in 2020, they turned an old manufacturing building into a new recycled glass manufacturing building. And so that serves actually 3 states in the Southeast. And so the glass that gets separated goes to Wilson, and then of course the paper gets separated, and that goes somewhere else. And actually in Wilmington, the plastic, which is the hugest part of the recycling, gets shipped to Jacksonville, where it gets processed further. It gets separated which plastic goes. They have a big fiber optic machine there they just bought, and it's $1 million machine that's supposed to look at the recycling and figure out which goes where. Okay, so let's say in Brunswick County for the last few years, they told us only 1s and 2s are allowed. Well, now since they bought the new fiber optic machine for the Jacksonville plant, now you can also put 5s in the recycling. I haven't gotten the memo yet, but that's a big addition that we should make when we tell people they can now recycle the 5s, because they bought this new fiber optic machine in Jacksonville. That is what I was told at the Wilmington plant. So our job as citizens of Sunset Beach, it would be really nice if more people would sign up for the recycling. In our neighborhood, like Don said, we have 105 homes, and lo and behold, only 10 people have one of those recycling bins, because it's cost, you have to pay $110 a year to have one of those. So my point is, this year, especially next year, they will have a real estate revaluation. Okay, that means the real estate in Brunswick County has gone up quite a bit in value. So you know that the Brunswick County is going to have more money coming in, because they're going to get more taxes because of that. So my point is, they should start using some of that money to enhance our recycling efforts in this county, and help and educate people and pay for the extra recycling. Okay, the Brunswick County has to do that, unless they decide to do it like in Raleigh, where they start charging people for trash as well as recycling. That would be one way to do it, instead of just paying everybody's trash bill. I was going to go learn more about the facility in Jacksonville, and then go to Brunswick County, the commissioners, and actually make my case there. Because inadvertently, Sunset Beach probably doesn't have the resources to do that, to make sure that everybody in Sunset Beach gets a recycling can. That's probably too much tax that would have to be increased in Sunset Beach. Or the Sunset Beach residents are probably not willing to do that. Right now, it's only 10% probably that pay for it. So, but what can the town of Sunset Beach do to reduce to start more recycling? I was thinking it's a shame that on the beach there's thousands of people in the summertime and we only have trash cans on the actual beach. So people throw everything in the trash, even though there are a lot of people that probably have plastic bottles and cans that they could throw into a separate container. Again, it's a matter of cost because now you would have to buy new containers that are for recycling. But wouldn't that be a great thing since we're right here in the ocean? We want to preserve the nice environment of the ocean and keep the plastic out of the ocean. So we should be an example of doing things like that, being such a beautiful beach town. So that's my one of the things that we could do in Sunset Beach, other than providing containers for everybody, which probably is too cost prohibitive. But basically, one of the things that I just wanted to quickly share is how do you recycle properly? One of the things is when you have plastic containers, wash them out, because if you don't, then they will get contaminated. You have to make them clean. The other one is when you have a water bottle that's plastic, keep the lid on the water bottle. Don't throw the lid away. Don't throw any, just keep it on the plastic bottle, because what happens, anything that's bigger, anything that's smaller than a postage stamp does not make it through the machines, okay? So if you have something that's smaller, like a cash receipt that's smaller than the postage sticker, then that doesn't make it through the machine. You can throw that in the trash, but the other cash receipts that are bigger, you can put in the recycling. So anything smaller, like the palm of your hand, does not get recycled. It's just the machines are not designated to do that. So those are some of the things that people should remember, and I'm sure you are a recycler, right? Being an environmental board, I'm sure you guys are a recycler, but I just would like to see Sunset Beach to do more, just even if it's just a small step to show that our town really cares, especially on the beach. I see those containers that have the little lights red, and I see people throwing stuff in there that's not recyclable, okay? The same is true for the place up there by Georgetown. People throw plastic bags in there. Actually, as a matter of fact, it would be so cost effective to have somebody stand there all day long by those big containers and make sure people don't contaminate those containers. See, stuff like that. Or just have a video system, where people feel like they're being watched instead of just throwing. They found dead animals in there, they found needles, whatever, people just throw it in there, okay? So that's a problem. So basically, that is what I wanted to talk about, and I'm planning to go to the Jacksonville facility where all the plastic is being separated, and that would be my next trip. Do you have any questions for me?
Well, I've got a comment and a question. First of all, I want to thank you for for coming to the meeting, Elizabeth. And it's almost like you have been in one of our subcommittee meetings or worked with Ms. Sieben and I on recycling. Education is really the key. And my wife and I've been taking our recycling down to either the old Georgetown Road place on the county park or up to 904. And you're exactly right. You see all kinds of stuff in the bins, including bags of recycling and where they're supposed to take it out. So you hit the nail on the head. You touched on a lot of things that our subcommittee or this committee has talked about. And I just appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
So thank you for coming in. Thank you for your research and sharing. If we go from state to county to town responsibility, and you said 10 people out of your neighborhood are 100 and plus people.
Right.
Is it possible to put a small container in your neighborhood so your neighbors could just run up the road and drop recycling into there?
I don't know where to put
is it
it.
possible to take it to neighborhood to neighborhood?
Yeah.
So it gives much more
Yeah.
personal responsibility instead of depending on the county or the city,
Right.
but you're heading in the right direction, right? If that's something that maybe the 3R committee could look at.
Yeah, I think,
You know,
so-
we've looked at that, and I know last year, one of the things that came up was some of the like townhouse and apartment communities where they don't have individual cans, so they don't have that option, and they would, you know, their option is take it over to the county, which some will do and some won't. And, you know, we were trying to see if there was a way to set up like a community drop site there, but it's really hard. There's no way to, even the beach is kind of hard because there's nobody that can go out there and pick up those recycling cans. They only come to the curbside.
Oh, but that can't be changed. The
That's
green, whoever the GFL.
they have a contract with the town to just do curbside.
So that would have to be an
I
additional
don't-
contract.
Do you
or
know,
something.
Chad, if there's a way to modify that? I know it was really difficult to find a way to get
I
them
can
to go to
Yeah, change
to
is
go
hard,
to.
right?
I mean, HOAs would have to pay a big fee. I would think if they wanted to put a big, because I know the golf course by me has a big recycling container there, and they come to get that, but. I don't know how you would do that in an HOA where you have to get all people to agree. Well, they don't even want to pay for the curbside in front of their house. How are they going to pay for that big one?
I don't know.
yeah, let
Have
me
you ever
share.
talked to your HOA about that? I know you're
Well,
on the
I'm on the
board.
board. I don't know. I could certainly bring it up. I'm not sure it's live, and I don't know if we put it for one thing. But my wife and I just got a bin like 2 months ago, and I was talking to one of our neighbors about this, Mr. to him, that we did this. He said, "Oh, that's a waste of time." I won't tell you who it was. She made it who it was, and but I guess the whole thing of people think it's all dumped in the same place or whatever.
Yeah.
So it gets back to the education thing.
Okay, I wanted to make a point about what people are saying. Gus Wiley shared that with me. A lot of the arguments is people see, one of the problems in Brunswick County is they both have the same color.
Yeah.
Okay, so the recycle truck looks the same as the trash truck.
Right.
Okay,
right.
so people have followed the recycle truck and it goes to the landfill like it would go to the landfill. So they go, oh no, they're just throwing it in the landfill.
Yeah.
Indeed, what happens is they take the recyclables to the landfill in Brunswick County, but the recycle truck goes this way to a transfer station, and the trash truck goes to another way. So, but people have seen them both go in there to the landfill up there off US 17, and they say, well, they both go to the trash. Okay, so the problem is that there's a lot of misinformation and not enough education.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
you mentioned leaving the caps on the bottles. My wife drinks Diet Cokes, what we call pop in the Midwest, and it says leave the top on the bottle, which I did not know until fairly recently. So we're leaving the top on when we put in recycling.
What do you do with your water bottle?
That's not mine, but we
You don't buy them.
don't buy it. Yeah, that's a whole
Yeah.
different story.
People that use refillable water bottles.
Yeah.
The best thing would be like my neighbor across the street only uses water bottles. Okay, so every time she has a drink of water, it comes out of the water bottle. Well, I have gotten her actually to take her water bottles and put in with recycling
Oh, wow.
can because she doesn't have one, or she doesn't want to pay for one. But the point is, I think that we can share. This in our household, we have a trash bag that's this big once a week. Okay, that's all we have, and it's been like this for years because we also have a compost thing in the backyard. So all our vegetables and all the scraps go in there, other than food, of course, But see, it cuts down your trash tremendously. Our recycle bin is full to the top, but we only have a small bag of trash in a week, because you can really do that if you consciously do that, and that's the problem. We have to somehow get people incentivized to do that, and I don't know how to do that.
Again, you put the
Okay.
nail on the head. Let me share one thing here. Again, that we we fill up our recycle cart in about 8 days. And they pick up every 14 days. So we have the same experience you do. We barely have about half a cart of trash every 2 weeks, barely. So that's a good point.
So, any other questions?
Well, I
may
think
wanna-
we would agree with you wholeheartedly.
I think it'd be good if you created your own YouTube video and shared it with people that have
Yeah.
influence. 'Cause you
That's a
gave a
good
good
point,
presentation because you gave us a presentation, but then you tape yourself.
Yes.
And then if there's scenarios where you can send it to people that make decisions, maybe you say, here's what my thoughts are, and
Yeah.
they can watch your videos. So you don't have to.
That's true. That's true.
Because I use YouTube a lot. It's great. And there's a
Mhm.
lot of resources on there and records, like we're being recorded on YouTube. But I'm just saying, to me, that's what might be a good idea because you're passionate about it. And
Yeah.
you could present it and save the presentation or refine
Yeah.
it as you get more data.
Yep.
Let me mention one other thing. Whether you've noticed or not, in the last several months, I've been sending little articles on recycling to the woman that does our newsletter. I think I've sent about 4 or 5 in the last 8 or 9 months. I need to send her another one, just giving information on where recycling sites are and so forth. A lot of people don't know.
Mhm.
They don't know about the 904 site or the one on at the county park because it's not promoted enough. So it takes all kinds of ways to promote this stuff, all kinds of ways.
Does. Well, a lot of people come from different areas of the country, and I understand that recycling is actually also very much in the northern part of the United States. You know, they've Michigan, those
Yeah.
places. So it's just like all of a sudden you come here and you don't have a recycle bin and it all goes in the trash. That just seems like being, I hate the word to say lazy, right? Because you had to separate before.
Or
And all of a sudden it's just
irresponsible,
like
maybe.
just like never mind. It's all, and it's true. The sad part is that only 5% to 10% of the plastics get recycled. Okay, that's the sad part. But so now we got a computer just this week, and lo and behold, there was no plastic in the computer. It was just cardboard. So the companies are now under pressure from Wall Street to start using more sustainability when they actually produce these wrappings and stuff. Okay, so in other words, it does come from the corporations to be more, conscious about just using different materials and not so much plastic. So that's
Thank you.
sure.
Your efforts to communicate through Facebook and Don through the HOA and with your neighbors, these are all the things that have to add up to educating people. One thing I talked to a lot of people about is they moved here because the cost of living is less. They pay lower taxes, but their taxes don't include recycling. And if we included recycling in the tax bill, it would raise taxes, and then they would be upset about that. So it's, for most people in a medium to upper priced home, the fee the town charges is a bargain.
Yeah,
It's a lot less than it would be if it was in their tax base. So,
yeah.
but people don't think about that unless it's explained to them. So we need to do more education, definitely.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
I have one more thing. Speaking of education, we have Earth Day coming, Earth Day and Arbor Day, and our committee's still discussing workshops, presenters. So we may contact you for a recycling, if you don't mind. Yeah, we'll contact you. I'm sure we.
April the 22nd. Is that the date?
Yes, sir. Every year.
April 22nd.
All right.
Thank
Well, thank
you.
you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. It's good to know the plastics do get recycled. Right?
Yeah. Old business. Next item is the Earth Day, Arbor Day 2023 planning. Jen, we'll let you start that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Met last week with the Earth Day Arbor Day subcommittee with Candace, Rich, and Mila. They had a great meeting. A lot of work was done. A lot of work has already been done. The application was given to them. I know Mr. Farrell had already submitted an application. The date's concrete. It's good. With the revamp of the temporary events, we are moving forward with just getting the proper paperwork submitted and the going around to businesses and making sure we have permissions with parking and working out logistics and stuff like that. I know Rich is working with vendors and the team with just putting this forward. I think one of the things we did talk about is that we will put this through to TRC in February, and that would be when this subcommittee sits down with other department heads, mainly fire, public works, and police, along with admin, to work out any logistics, provide comments back directly from department heads on what we need to do to move forward, and then start working toward how we stage all of this. So it was good.
Are there any other comments to what Chad had to say? Good. I'm glad we got an early start on it this year.
Mhm.
I could discuss a few of the things we confirmed and Chad has provided for us already, if that's okay.
Sure.
It was a good meeting. A lot of assignments were given out, I think. But Candace and Mila and I have met. And then Candace brought up the fact that this past year, there was no drinks available on site. And since we didn't want plastic water bottles in the park for this event, Chad contacted through, I think, Lisa, I suppose, or worked with the town, the provider of their filtered water, reusable water, their water container out here. And his supplier said they will be on site, so we will have water, right? Gallons of water. And I think we're still considering the possibility of providing reusable bottles.
So I actually do have an update on that, and this is, I think, news to this board and also the subcommittee team, is that after I left that meeting, went to Lisa and talked about reusable water, filtered water, reusable bottles, and the town has asked me to get quotes on fillable water stations, and they will be installed before the Earth Day Arbor Day event, and have a plaque on it as donated by the ERC. So the reusable water bottle stations will be installed in the park before that. So that was,
Are they
those are permanent?
they are going to be permanent.
Oh, nice. Well,
Yeah. So
congratulations.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
so we're going to do that. I'm going to be on behalf of the ERC. Lisa's like, give me a quote, we'll find the money, and
That's
go from there. So yeah, so that part's already been taken care of. So
Great.
They-
well done.
yeah.
Thank you from all of us that
Absolutely.
walk our dogs
Yeah.
over there.
Yeah. Something else Chad gave us was the application for parking to check with the local businesses for allow us to park. And Candace and Mila looking into that. And on top of that, they're checking with the local restaurants in town if they would be open to providing coupons or lunch, small lunch fare for people to pick up during the event.
Or
With-
somehow participating, whatever their choice would be. We want them to feel like we're partnering with them in this. Since we don't have food there, we'd like to use and it makes sense, use our local
Right.
businesses to do that.
Yeah, it's a fair trade, I think, and also for them to offer clean packaging. Not so much styrofoam and plastic going out the door. Mila has offered to do press releases for our subcommittee, so she's not here right now. So we can possibly she could do a press releases for the ERC also. We discussed event posters at the kiosk. John brought that up this past year. If we could put in event posters in advance of the event, obviously, a few months in advance. So that's something else we're looking at. We don't want to turn this into a marketplace, but if we had not-for-profits such as the Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, there's a gardening club, anyone not making a profit, if they wanted to provide, sell, again, nothing's confirmed yet. I have to get permission, I think. If they want to sell as a fundraiser, birdhouses, bee boxes, anything like that, any feeders, anything. We almost done here. We environmental projects for kids, since it's a Saturday event this year. If there's a way we can entice schools, supervisors, or school teachers to bring children over for the event, grandparents, parents bring kids for the event. If we had environmental projects set up for them or by them, and maybe even T-shirts for the children to promote the message of Earth Day. And finally, Candace is looking over trees and shrub seedlings for Earth Day. They were fairly successful last year, and I think we'll need as many this year. But there's a lot of, we want to make sure they're salt tolerant, salt spray tolerant, on and on, and local. And also, we're looking at native perennials to hand out during the event. We will still have the swap meet. Not swap meet, but the plant swap. Yes, Ohio swap meet. Have the plant swap, but also give out a few different native perennials for the event. All funded by sponsorships, hopefully, and through the town.
Thank you.
Sorry, a lot of notes.
We got a good start at it last year, and it sounds like we're going ahead grand style here for next year. That's wonderful. Next item is the RCCP Phase 3 update. Chad, do you want to do that?
Yeah, I'll be brief. Excuse me. Lisa Anglin is our town administrator, is in a class until 12:30. So the update I got from her is that Phase 3 is accepting bids for the projects that's going to be submitted. We have had one bid submitted. It is from McGill and Associates. That's who the town's been working with so far. They have put in a bid for the project, and then bidding ends tomorrow. So at least have one bid for this, and hopefully we'll be able to move forward to take it to council to get it accepted on the bid and move forward.
And I sent each one of the committee members a copy of the bid request, so that you know what the scope of work is and the timeline for that. And when the engineer is selected and that work begins, and we'll be able to keep track of that and see where that's going. This is
I'm sorry, John, I've got a kind of a question / comment. It's been a pretty good while since I have really heard what is going on with that initiative, and maybe at the next meeting, well, I won't be here the next meeting, but sometime fairly soon, give us an update as to, with just a few slides, as to what's going on, the big picture of that project. Not painful detail.
So I know you said you will not be here at the next meeting,
Right.
but we are bringing in Pete Larkin and John Corbett at the beginning of next month's ERC meeting.
Good.
To kind of walk through a little bit of the RCCP.
Okay.
A little bit. This board was tasked as that, as a need be. And the conversations that Lisa, John, and I have had about this, along with Pete and John Corbett, we need to hold that a little bit next month. So that will be at the beginning of next month's meeting for this board. The John Corbett, Councilman Corbett, and our planning board chair, Mr. Larkin, will be in attendance and to go talk through some of that stuff.
Right.
and kind of go from there.
Well, good. I say I will be at next. I might be at our next meeting. My wife's having a procedure that day.
Maybe you can watch it on the YouTube.
Yeah. So that's
So
good.
you'll be updated.
I've just lost track of, frankly.
Just to add to what Chad just said.
Yeah.
And I was going to cover this in the subcommittee
Okay,
discussion,
okay.
but it's the next thing anyway. So
Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
we submitted a report to the town on the Hurricane Ian.
Good.
And part of one of the recommendations in that report was to have the community action team meet again, gather all the input from the storm experience,
Right.
go through the strategy the
Right.
town has, that spreadsheet
Right.
of projects,
Right.
and see what needs to be reprioritized
Right.
or added to or removed from, and update the town strategy for resilience.
Good.
So the town has agreed to do that, and we're going to do that as part of the ERC meeting in December.
Okay.
The community action team will meet at the beginning of the ERC meeting with Pete and John in attendance, and we'll go through that, and we'll update the whole
Okay.
plan for resilience.
Great. Well, I'm glad you're doing that. My wife's having a procedure that day in the hospital, so I need to be there with her. But I'm glad you guys are doing that, or that the committee's doing it, I guess. So anyway.
Well, it'll be on the video.
Okay.
And then we'll update the reports and share
Good.
them with everybody.
Good. By the way, that report you gave on the hurricane was, I thought, a very good report. Lots of detail. I mean, not too much detail, but enough that you understood what was going on. I appreciate you doing that.
Okay, that's the phase 3 update.
Okay.
Then we get into the subcommittee discussions. The climate subcommittee, the major item in that is the report and the follow-up to the report. We summarized all the information for the town on the results of the hurricane, and we made 2 recommendations. One for the community action team to meet, that will be done in December. The other recommendation was to get aerial images of Tubbs Inlet at low tide to see how the storm surge affected the shoal and the channel in the inlet. And Lisa has arranged or will arrange for the town drone, either with the police department or the fire department, to be used to get those images.
Oh.
So we just have to schedule that and make that happen. Unfortunately, over the next month, the best 2 dates to do that is the day after Thanksgiving or the day before Christmas. So it's, but there's no huge rush to this, other than the fact that the dredging will probably begin in December, but that's on the backside of the island, not in the inlet area. So we'll work that out.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything else that Steve or Steve that you would care to add to our discussions? And
Go ahead.
I just was wondering if that's worth mentioning, the idea of nominating me for that
oh,
committee.
absolutely. The day before the last council meeting, there was a notice in the news about a committee being formed. Why don't you explain it? You
Well,
can
it's,
do better than I can.
The Bureau of Ocean Energy Management is looking for a committee, a standing committee that would advise them on fisheries issues or as they relate to offshore wind power. So they were looking for nominations from, all along the coast, really. And the National Academy, I forget the full, but what a third party's doing that is pulling this together to assemble this committee for BOEM. And they were looking for nominees from local communities, non-government organizations, governments, the military, everybody. So, we have a shot at it anyways.
Yeah, good job.
Who knows? I think that there's a lot of people that'll be nominated for this committee. But John said it looked to be right up my alley and asked me if I'd consider, putting my name in. So we did. So Lisa gave my name to Lisa and some information. So she filled out the form, which was due like the next day or something like that. We just barely got it in on time.
Well, and we presented it to council that night, and they approved it.
Right.
So he has the formal backing of the town government with his applications. I think this would be good for him and good for the town if he would get appointed to that.
Thanks for
So the
volunteering.
purpose of this is to see the impact of
Just
wind farms on fishing.
right. We know that that offshore wind development will have impacts on fish, their habitat, and consequently the fisheries that are associated with that. So it's just having a committee to advise the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management on, their actions related to that. And since we know that there's going to be a call out area right here, I guess it's going to be developed sooner rather than later, probably within view of our beach. Thought it might be wise to get some representation on that committee.
Makes sense.
Thank you for stepping up to that, Steve.
Yeah, thank you.
Hey, just slight arm twisting there, but it didn't really hurt much.
It wasn't hard at all.
Yeah.
Now, I would point out to other members of the committee, if you find out that there are other groups like this being formed that you have an interest to try to get nominated for and be a member of, let's talk about it, because the town is very supportive of having town representatives on as many of these types of groups as they can. Okay. Next group is the Green Committee, Green Subcommittee.
Earth Day and Arbor Day is obviously our focus, but we are still looking at other either smaller events that we can get ERC out there. We can get our reusable bags out. We can get plants out to the neighborhoods or to Sunset Beach. Also, there's some certifications, national and state certifications we would like to focus on. Backyard wildlife habitats. There's a Mayor's Monarch Challenge. Those kind of environmental issues. And also any opportunities, let's put it that way, any opportunities that we might find to help the town put in more trees, more green space, more greenways. We're looking at that. We want some recognition and the benefits of positive recognition from national groups like that, Wildlife Federation and national and state, is that your neighbors in your neighborhood feels that there's progress being made. It isn't all bad news with the environment, that there's things that we can each of us can do to make for a better neighborhood, better town. That's all I have. Candace may have.
I was just going to ask Chad, I know as they're doing the UDO project, I don't know if you've gone, if the group's gotten that far, but if somebody maybe from the planning board could update us on how those things might
as far as our
might be attached.
vegetation and stuff like that.
I think because I know they're looking at trees and the developments and
Yes.
so on.
So one of the things that the planning board is doing in our UDO update is, and we had to explain this to the planning board as well, is that developers have certain rights when it comes to owning property, and it becomes an uphill battle, especially when you get into stormwater battles as well, especially with the amount of growth that Brunswick County has had across the state, across the country, all that. So one of the things that we're doing is, obviously the clear cutting is an issue, but also we can't make a landscape and ordinance designed to the point where the land becomes undevelopable, because then the town gets into a legal battle and you can't deem property unbuildable due to your rules and regulations. One of the things that the planning board is looking at as far as a specific type of tree, a list of specific type of trees, and if it's over an X amount, we haven't determined what that number looks like, inches in caliper, then it must stay. There's not going to be much wiggle room to be able to remove it. You will have to design around that. So, and that's one of the measures we're looking at. I will say this on behalf of the clear cutting and all this. When it comes to a replanting schedule, the ordinance works very well. It's just the thing that you're not going to, 30 years from now, that's when you're going to see the renourishment of what it once was. So that's kind of the battles we're getting into. You get in some vested rights, you get in some rights battles, you get into some other stuff that general statute really limits us on, and what North Carolina allows us to do, stuff like that. So that's where we're at.
Thank you.
I would also add to the green discussion that there was a communication on Facebook about the new park on the island at Majestic Oaks. And Councilman Nern had shared with the community that town had received a grant of money to go to the park. And it seemed to me appropriate to add to the discussion that reminding people that in February, the town had a resolution declaring that this year was the year to invest in our environment. And that the investment in a new park area in the town, anywhere in the town, whether it's on the island or the mainland, is an investment in the environment, and it is a good thing to do. It would remove from the housing pool 20 lots with the impacts that has on the environment, and it would leave that space open with carbon absorbing grasses and shrubs and trees and everything, and that's all a very positive thing for the environment. And that, as you can probably imagine, that generated a lot of positive and negative discussion, but it's a very true thing. So I think that when we have those opportunities, we should take advantage of them to promote events like that. The next subcommittee is recycling. Don, you're the chair.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, Ms. Smith touched on several things that we as a subcommittee talked about. Kind of a nice segue, and I'll just briefly go through some of these things. Number one, we talked about promoting recycling through the HOAs and other groups. This has been a tough nut to crack. I don't think we've really found that silver bullet yet that's going to get the word out there, as I talked with her about, Ms. Smith. Education, getting people's attention on this. And I think we need to, the subcommittee thought that we need to do it in different ways. I mentioned that I am doing little blurbs for the HOA newsletters that Cam works with, and including our newsletter is one way to do it. And we just in meeting before before HOAs to do that, which is a challenge because number one, I'm not sure when their boards meet. Number two, if they'd even give us the time to be there. So that's getting the word out, promoting recycling is I think our biggest challenge, getting people to understand the benefits of it, as Ms. Smith touched on. The second thing we didn't really talk about, this was on the agenda, the status of the number of carts in town versus where we were last year and the year before. And Chad, have you done anything at all on this? No. The question that I raised was, how many recycling carts are there right now versus last year this time versus the year before, compared to how many housing units are in town? Are we gaining or losing?
I would have to look at all that.
Okay. I'm not sure what we would do with that number because we've had so much more residential units in town, but it'd give us a number to go on. It's just something that candidates.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me for a second.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you didn't try to you weren't able to get that information?
Well, I was waiting. No, I haven't heard back. I sent an email to them. Gosh, probably 2 months ago now. Have not heard back.
All right, we'll have to remind
Be
them.
interesting to see, because they finished sign up for this year's cards, right? I think
Yeah.
as of October 1,
Yeah.
to see if the price increase caused many people to reconsider their commitment.
I'm like John. We take ours, and I'm like Don. We take ours to the recycling every couple of weeks. But again, I'm not sure what people's budgets are. But at $7 a month, it does not seem like costly. Again, that's $8 a month, and maybe it's like John mentioned, you can pay $8 a month and help your environment, or you can add it to the taxes,
Yeah.
which no one wants to. No one wants to add
yeah.
it to the taxes. Yeah, I can't anyway. It's beyond me to know why there's that price, and maybe it's just people feel like everyone's taking from them.
Yeah, I mean,
Right
my
now.
only point too is the process. Like I think it could be easier. So, like I went online and paid my bill, but then I didn't mail the application. I think you should try to figure out a way to make it all encompassing. So, I mean, I think we talked about having like a recycling part of the web page, but then maybe have a link that says sign up, and it's one thing. You're done. You sign up and pay $100 or what, $110 or whatever it is, and be done with it.
Steve, that was the next thing, updating the town's website on the whole recycling sign up thing and all. It's still kind of not kind of clunky. It is pretty clunky and cumbersome. So that's something we need to keep at the forefront.
Well, let's be fair about it.
Oh, yeah.
We have a process. It works. I think there's, from what I remember, there were almost 1,000 people who signed up for recycling bins in the past. And out of the total population of the town, that's a very high percentage.
That's 25%.
Yeah.
Number of households there.
Yeah. So things can always be improved, but a lot of the discussion I've had with people, they say, well, I don't want to have to pay extra for it. It was always something.
Right.
It was in my taxes.
Right.
Well, do you know how much you paid in your tax? No.
Yeah.
They didn't know what it cost them, but they didn't have to write a separate check. And the town, for its own reasons, has decided not to have mandatory recycling. And there are a large number of people, as we've all witnessed, who do the drop-off recycling on their own.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, Sunset Beach is unique in this area, and people need to be educated about it. And it just takes a lot of communication.
It does. It does. It does. And I think one of the challenges is there's so much information out there on so many different things. It's hard to get people's attention on recycling because it doesn't. It's just it's just hard to do.
Yeah, maybe another opportunity at Earth Day
Right.
to actually have that application on hand.
Right. Right.
If there's a representative, I'm not sure who would take
Yeah,
the
we
money.
would have liked to have done that at Sunset
If
because
you
it
had
was literally that weekend.
Right, yeah.
with
Well, they can
closing.
send it in.
Well, the only thing I would say is,
Here's your
is
stamp.
I have friends that are,
So yeah, something you can do for that. Maybe.
I have friends that have moved here, bought houses. You send them a letter, they just throw it.
Right.
They won't pay attention to it or forget about it, stick it in a pile.
Right.
I think using email, like I get an email, like ERC meeting coming up, email the planning board. If you email people, say now it's time to, maybe we do this. I don't know. Here's the application for recycling. You click on the link, you just put your name, address in, and credit card, and you're done. It's a two-step process now where you got to fill out a piece of paper, mail it in, or copy it and send it in, and then go pay separately. I would just make it easier. That's all.
Well,
it
it's
doesn't hurt to make it easy. To John's point, when you look at the studies on recycling, when it's not mandatory, we're actually doing pretty well. It's hard to get much above 30%.
right.
Well,
And
Yeah.
and we
But the more education we do and the more people we get to do that, but I think, and Rich has made this point before, we're not just recycling, we also want to talk about reducing consumption and reusing what we have.
Right.
And I think those are opportunities
yeah, big
for education as we go forward.
Actually, when we say we have, if we pick a number, let's say 20%, we have a 20% curbside recycling
Right.
number. The town recycling number is very much higher because of all the people
That do drop off.
that drop off
Right.
themselves.
right.
And we have
Yeah.
no way of being able to measure
We
that.
don't. Yeah.
But, so I think we have we have a lot of recycling going on. We'd like to see it be more. We'd like to see other facets of it getting done. So we
Yeah.
just have to keep educating people.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
and then one more component of that is and it's something that Ms. Smith touched on, was reducing contamination, because one of the biggest costs of recycling is getting rid of the contaminants. So
Right.
if we can talk to people about what's appropriate, what materials to put in there.
So yeah, you continue, which is, I like talking also, but short handouts.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have a lot of paper, but short handouts or even a photo. Take a
Mhm.
photo. This is why you clean your yogurt, why you don't throw trash in your
Well,
recycling.
when we get around to redoing the website, maybe we can do some specific thing. And John's so good at doing those QR codes that we could have them at events and things and just say, click this and it will tell you.
So there are lots of easier ways to.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I think it's a good idea, though, like what you're saying, is to look at how many people are doing it today. Like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and just say there's
The recycling-
4,000
Right.
people. Well, I don't know how many people have properties here, because you got, let's say there's 10,000 people that have properties here. What percentage of those recycle?
Mhm.
3,000. Or you guess like some of those go to a recycling facility, and then how many people don't? And then how do we measure the improvement every year?
Yeah, I think that's the important part, and why Don's looking at the carts is, how many people are doing curbside, and are we having an impact? Are we improving it?
Because I think the friends, like I said, I'm just talking about some friends that they come down here and they just said they just throw it in the trash, but in Greensboro, they put it in the bin because they have one. But
Yeah.
the goal is to make them feel like they're more obligated to recycle when they come here, and not just dump it in the trash can.
Yeah. Well, okay. The final thing I wanted to touch on was Ms. Seaman had brought to the subcommittee's attention something called Easy Packs, where you would bring your used batteries, AA, AAA, and so forth, to a site and put it in a Easy Pack kind of thing that they would be mailed back to a company, and they would reuse the batteries. After some discussion, we the subcommittee felt like rather than doing that, we would bring a bucket of sorts, like from Lowe's or Home Depot, to the Earth Day and have people drop their batteries off there. Of course, we'd have to moan it pretty heavily to get people to do that, but that'd be one way to do it, to not put batteries in the trash or recycling.
Good idea.
You're talking about the lithium batteries?
Any
Any-
of
any
them, just
battery.
because
Any
they'd like to
battery.
keep them out of the landfill. And I think we could. The nice thing with with the Easy Pack is when people are like, well, what's the point? They just go in the. No, they actually contract with somebody that takes them apart and reuses the materials. I'm not sure. I know Brunswick County. I mean, you can take them to the
Convenience.
To the convenience center.
to the convenience centers. But I think a lot of people don't. And I just, for us, it was just one way to get people thinking about what can go into recycling, what things can be used.
Anytime
It-
you can take barriers away from recycling.
Yeah.
Like
And
offering-
use it as an educational opportunity. You can bring them here. Oh, gee, never thought about that. Just throw them in the trash.
and the county does a white recycling or some appliance recycling or something,
Yes.
right? Or a computer recycling day.
Right.
Well,
Right,
they
so-
have that at the convenience center too.
Now,
But
yeah,
this,
they,
yeah, my point is that instead of asking someone with a car at 80
Yeah.
years old to put their washing machine in their car or whatever,
Mhm.
that I don't know if the county picks those up at their houses. I'm not sure how that works.
I think they can just.
But the
they
smaller
they bring it to the
appliances, the
landfill.
cell phones, the laptops,
Mhm.
the keyboards, all of the batteries, all of those things, I think we can do we might consider, recycling subcommittee might consider a drop off for Earth Day,
Mhm.
right? And work with the county,
I wonder
whoever
if
has to
you're.
do
I
that.
wonder. I know you said that your church does.
We do an occasional
I wonder if you
electronics.
could get them to coordinate that with Earth Day and be a nice way to tie them in.
Possibly, we have a vendor come in and do that.
Yeah,
Let me make a note. Try to track down.
I think that's a great suggestion.
And Candace will follow up with Don to make sure.
It's
Yeah,
on my
since
sec-
we're
it's on my
talk-
secretary list.
Since we're talking recycling with the input from the board, I want everyone to know, and John mentioned this when we made the subcommittees, any input you have for the Green Committee or for Earth Day, let us know, right? Bring it up here or send
Yeah.
send one of us a text. Any input that you have.
Yeah, I realize lots of people on this board have experience in many different areas, and so if you've seen something work somewhere else on any of our subcommittees, we'd appreciate it.
and that was it.
Okay. Thank you, Don. Thank
Well
you.
done.
Thank you to all the subcommittees. I think
I was going to say on what you're saying about the Arbor Day. I mean, it's great you guys are putting this all together, but I think it's such a critical event that
Oh, yeah.
maybe we have, maybe I guess we can't all get together as a group, but it might be good to have a separate meeting or something just to talk about the Arbor Day event, just for any other ideas we come up with, so we make sure we help, and be assistants in that.
Well, I think you can share your ideas with Rich, and
Okay.
and we'll talk about this every month at our monthly meeting. So this is a dialogue that will continue.
Because I think there's a lot of people like University in North Carolina, Wilmington. We had the voting. We had a bunch of different people that wanted to come, but they didn't have it on their calendar that didn't show up. That you could get to show up.
UNCW's already can't or denied or declined their event because they are obligated to, which makes sense, right? If you're a university, obligated to other larger events until ours becomes large enough to make it worthwhile for their time, I think. But they were invited. We will continue. That was one of your inputs last.
Well, like the power, I invited the Power Squadron, which you thought might have been. They backed out like 3 times, but KM are going to go. But there's like every time there's a hurricane. When the water recedes, there's like 10,000 beer cans from like the 1950s all the way up to 2022 laying. So these people take their boats, they go up and down the water, they just dump tons of trash in the water, lays on the bottom when there's a storm. I said part of their education would be to educate their boaters on don't dump all your trash in the water.
And you said that's who the sale committee does.
Yeah,
right? They already educate their voters because it is a focus group, right?
right.
So yeah, it would be great. They didn't join us this last year, did they?
I don't remember.
I think they backed out all times. But if that's one of the, and they were invited, if that's a river and sail,
Yes.
if that's
Yes,
something, if that's
yes.
something they can promote.
That, yeah, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any other subcommittee? Don, you had something about bylaws?
Well, I have put together a very, very rough first draft of the bylaws for the committee to consider. I will not be at the December meeting, so I'm just asked to be reviewed at the January meeting, I hope. I'm going to, John, send you a copy to look at once I work with it a little bit more. I want to get your thoughts before we send it to the full committee.
Okay.
So that was it.
All right.
Can I just ask a question about that? So we currently we don't have bylaws for the ERC specifically, and
Well,
and
that's-
what he's working on is developing those for us.
We have rules and responsibilities
Right.
that are the essence of bylaws.
Hmm.
They were adopted, or they were created, and
I think they're on the website.
well, they were enacted by the town council.
Right.
So we have rules and responsibilities from the town council.
Right.
that
But this is something separate from.
Well, we'd have to see how they tie together, or where they
Okay.
might be different, and what we have to do if we want to make changes. I know I've had discussions with Lisa about possibly amending our rules and responsibilities. It was not something the council thought was necessary. So, but doesn't mean we can't bring it up again.
Yeah, well, we'll see what the full committee thinks about bylaws.
Make it a living document, right?
Right.
Okay.
I do have one thing, since holidays are coming up. I will not be here December or January. And I'm not sure who else may be.
When is the meeting?
What do we
in
need,
December?
5?
Our December meeting is scheduled for the 14th of December. Don, you said you will not be here.
Right.
Rich, you will not be
Right.
here. Is there anyone else that won't be here?
I plan on being here.
Yeah, I thought I'm going to be here.
Mila informed me before the meeting that she wouldn't be able to attend today. If she were not able to be here next month, we would still have a quorum, so we could go ahead and meet. But if one other person had something come up and they couldn't come, then we wouldn't be able to have a quorum.
Yeah, you just have to have 4.
What day? We're meeting on the 14th.
14.
14. I would also add that the town council meeting in December is December 5th. Again, I would encourage you to either attend the council meetings in person or watch them on YouTube. It's important for us to be aware of all the things going on at the council level. Any other discussion? All right. And I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion we adjourn today's meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.
For that.